I would like to make a few comments at the beginning of this video. After I had made this chocolate meringue pie and tasted it, to me, the chocolate was too intense. The cocoa sugar ratio was not right. So the next time that I make this pie, instead of using 1/3 cup of cocoa, I'm going to try using 1/4 cup. That's a little bit less, and see if I like that taste better. Now, some people may like the pie the way the original recipe is. They may like that intense flavor of chocolate, but I think I would like a little less. And you know, that is something that is really wonderful to me about cooking, that I really enjoy, is that you can experiment with recipes and you can take the ingredients and you can subtract ingredients, you can add ingredients, you can change the measurements, and you can make that recipe your recipe. Hello there, everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make a homemade chocolate meringue pie. So let's start out with the crust. I have homemade crust here. I've already mixed it up and I'm going to roll it out. So I just want to get a nice piece of this crust, a good big piece of it. Got my pie plate right here. Okay, let's put some flour out on the counter. Kind of knead this just a little bit and shape it. Get it ready to roll out. All right, let me go get my rolling pin. I forgot to get it out. All right, here we go. Here's my rolling pin right here. Let's put a little flour on top of this. Help keep it from sticking. I'm just going to kind of press it out with my hands at first, just a little bit before I actually start rolling it. I'm trying to press it out in a circle because that is the shape that I need to go in this pie plate. Okay, a little more flour on it. Let me see how the bottom is doing. Okay, the bottom's trying to stick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flour this top real nicely, and I'm going to flip this over. All right, let's flip this pie crust over. This pie crust is really delicate. It breaks apart very easily, so you have to handle it carefully. It's a very delicious pie crust, and I will tell you the ingredients for this pie crust while I'm rolling it out. And if you actually want to see how to make this pie crust, you can look on my channel, look for Never Fail Pie Crust. And my daughter, Rebecca, she's in that video, and she's showing you how to make the Never Fail pie crust. Now, what you need is 2½ cups of all-purpose flour or plain flour. That's both the same. Some people call it all-purpose, some people call it plain. You need 1 cup of shortening. You need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. You need 1 egg. 1/4 cup of water, and 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. And that is your ingredients for this pie crust. You put your flour, your salt in the bowl, little mixing bowl, and you stir that up, stir your salt into the flour. Then add your 1 cup of shortening and cut that in to your shortening. Then you can add your other ingredients, your egg, your water, and your vinegar. Then mix all of that up, and you've got your dough for your pie crust. So that's what I have here. I'm using a spatula right here to slide up under this dough because it has a tendency to stick to the counter. And this will help get it unstuck. Okay, I've got a big piece of pie crust rolled out here. It's probably too big for my pie plate, but we'll trim it up once we get it in there. Okay, I'm going to fold this over. I'm going to kind of like do a tri-fold. I'll fold it like this. And then I'm just going to flip it on over one more time. And then we'll pick this whole piece of pie crust up. Let me see if I can scoop my pie plate where you can see what I'm doing. Try to get this a little bit closer. All right, here's my pie plate. I'm just going to pick this up, and this end that's on the bottom, I'm going to lay it up top here, kind of where it's overlapping the side. And we're just going to unroll this into the pie plate. Okay, here we go. And now we want to just fit it down in there. Make sure it's down in the sides real good. All right, that's great. Now we want to take this extra on the edges, and if there's too much of it, you can trim it off. I'm going to fold it under and then just make a pretty little design with it. Here's a little bit that may be a little too much. So let me trim a little of it off right here. Fold it under. We're going to make a pretty little design. I'm working on it. I'll show it to you real simple and easy to do. Just turn it on around, cut a little bit more of this off. Just kind of fold it under and see you've got an edge sticking up above the pie plate. Now when we cook this pie crust, it's going to shrink a little bit. So if you've got it standing up above the pie plate, that's perfectly fine because it's going to shrink down in here when you cook it. Okay, just going around the edges. Folding it under. Once I get the edges folded under, then I'll show you how to make a cute little design with it. I've got my oven preheating on 375. That's what we'll cook this pie crust on, is 375, until it's nice and brown, because our chocolate pie filling, I'm going to cook that in a boiler on the stove. So we're going to need to have our pie crust cooked. It's going to need to be done. All right, I've almost got this done here. This will take just a few little minutes. And we will have this done. You'll get to see this. Right, I'm going to put just a little piece of dough right here. There's not quite enough dough right here. So I'm just going to stick a little piece of dough on the edge here. There we go. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm going to get my two first fingers and my two thumbs. And I'm going to just do it right along the edge of the pie, just like this, all the way around, and it just makes a cute little edge. You just bend it between your thumbs and your fingers and make this cute little decoration on the edge of it. And then you've got this pretty homemade pie crust. And people notice when your pie crust is homemade or not. You take something to a family gathering or a church function, and it's easy to pick out the homemade desserts. They're going to be, first of all, they're going to be in a dish. They're not going to be in a throwaway container. They'll be on a pie plate or a cake plate or something like that. That's one giveaway that is a homemade dessert. Now, a second giveaway is if you have, this homemade pie plate and you see this pie crust in here like this, you're going to know that this is a homemade pie crust and this is a homemade pie. Now, you can get sneaky and buy your cake and just put it on your own cake plate and take it to the church function, and nobody may know it. Okay, can you see that? You see that decoration around the edges? All right. You kind of wipe some of this flour off of it. Now we're going to slide this into my oven. Wait, before I slide it in, I need to do one more thing. Let me get me a fork. Almost forgot. Okay, so while this pie crust is cooking, it will have a tendency to puff up in the bottom. So I'm just going to take this fork and prick the bottom of this pie crust. And that will help some of the air to escape to keep it from puffing up. Now I know nowadays you can have dry beans you can pour in it, or some kind of weighted something or the other to set in it. But I never knew about that until just here lately. So I just prick my pie crust with a fork. That does a good job. All right, it's ready to go in the oven. Got my rack in the middle. Got it on bake, 375. It'll take 10 or 15 minutes for it to cook. The pie crust is done. Let me show it to you. See, it's browned on the edges and a little bit in the bottom. Now, I'm going to take this pie crust and I'm going to stick it in my freezer and let it be cooling down some. And I've got a pot holder laying here on the shelf so that I don't want to lay it straight on the rack. I'm afraid it might melt my rack. So I'm setting it on top of a pot holder. We're going to let that set right there just a little bit. And we're going to start on the chocolate pie filling. So let's get around here. I'm separating my eggs. Let me show you how to separate an egg. And I just do it the old-fashioned way. I don't use an egg separator or anything. Okay, here we go, one egg. I'm going to crack it. Break it in half. And then you've got these two halves of shell. You're just going to pour it back and forth between these two shells and let that egg white fall off of it. I'm putting these egg whites in my mixer here because I'm going to use these egg whites to make a meringue to go on this pie, on the top of this pie. Okay, there's my yolk. I'll put it in a little bowl. Then I usually scrape my shells out to get all of the egg white out of it. It's usually just a little bit still stuck. All right, let's got our egg whites in there. Let's got the eggs separated. We'll scoot this just over to the side because I'll make meringue in just a little bit. Let me rinse my hands off. All right, I've got this pot on the stove. Let's move the camera over here a little closer. And we're going to mix all of our ingredients for our chocolate pie filling. Now I have got in here 1 cup of sugar already. I need to add 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and I like using cornstarch in a pie better than plain flour. Both of these, plain flour and cornstarch, they will both thicken your pie filling. Both of them will work to thicken your pie filling, but the cornstarch actually makes your pie, trying to think how to say it. It makes your pie feeling nice and firm, and when you slice it, it will slice very cleanly and your pie will hold its shape. If you use plain flour to thicken your pie filling, it does not make a nice firm pie, and it doesn't slice cleanly and everything. So that's the reason I prefer to use cornstarch. And here's what here's my cornstarch. I've already put in 2 tablespoons. I'm putting in my 3rd tablespoon of cornstarch. Okay, there we go. It's got our cornstarch in. All right, let me look at my recipe and see what else I need to do. Okay, I've got sugar, I've got cornstarch. I need to add 2 cups of milk. Let me kind of stir this cornstarch up into the sugar. And then we'll get ready to add the 2 cups of milk. All right, 2 cups of milk. Wait, I have got to put in here, I need to put cocoa. Let me put my cocoa in next before I put the milk in. So 1/3 cup of cocoa. We want to mix that up in here, because if you don't mix this cocoa up in with your sugar and cornstarch, it's just going to be all lumpy and stuff. So we want to mix this up together before we go to adding our milk. All right, now I've got 2 cups of whole milk. I'm going to add just a little bit at a time and stir this to try to keep it from lumping, hopefully. And I'm using a whisk because that will help break up lumps. So I poured in probably 1/4 cup of milk here to start with. I'm going to get that stirred up real good. Almost got it stirred up here good. Okay, see that? Now we're going to pour the rest of our milk in. We can just go ahead and pour the rest of it in there now because we've got it all mixed up real good. Got the lumps out. That'll be fine. And we've got 3 egg yolks. I'm just going to go ahead and put these 3 egg yolks in. There they are. We're just going to stir this up good. We're going to crank this up and start cooking it here in just a minute. Let me see if I need to put anything else in before I cook it. Sugar, cocoa, egg yolks, cornstarch, milk. Okay. At the end, I'll put in butter and vanilla. So we're going to turn this on just a little above medium. I'm just going to go ahead and start stirring because we've got them egg yolks in here and we want them egg yolks to get stirred in good. So I have been in a cooking mood here the past few days. Just a cooking. Sometimes it gets that way. I get in a cooking mood. I just want to cook everything. Trying to make sure I've got the egg yolk stirred up good, and then when this filling starts getting hot, we're going to need to make sure we keep it stirred to keep it from sticking to the bottom of the pot. All right, I'm going to go get the pie crust out of the freezer, and I just didn't have time to let it cool down on its own, so I just stuck it here in the freezer to let it cool down a little bit, and we'll pour this pie filling in it when it gets done. So I'm just going to be stirring this for a few minutes until this pie filling thickens up. All right, it's starting to thicken up some. Once it starts thickening up, it doesn't take long then for your filling to get done. Just want to cook it until it's nice and thick. All right, I think that's pretty much got it. There's our chocolate pie filling, nice and thick. Now, I'm going to pour this into my crust right back here. I'm going to turn my burner off. Can y'all see this crust? Move it over here and maybe see if that's a little better. Right here. See if that's a little better. I think this is more. Nope, okay. I'm trying to find one of these burners that's the most even. Okay, so we'll put it on that one. We'll pour this filling in there. Nice, delicious chocolate pie filling. Woo! Man. Now you can, you know, buy the Jell-O cook and serve chocolate pie filling, lemon pie filling, coconut cream pie filling, stuff like that, but it's just not going to be as good as homemade. All right, there's that. Need to set it somewhere where it can set straight. It's kind of leaning there. All right, we'll just set it right here and it'll be straight right there. Okay, there is our pie crust, our chocolate pie filling, and then next we're going to make the meringue to go on top. Okay, I messed up on my pie filling. Did anybody notice what I did not do? I didn't add my butter and I didn't add my vanilla. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stir it into the pie like that. So I need about just a little bit of butter, not much, about a teaspoon maybe, something like that. And that's just going to melt in there. We'll stir that in. Okay, while that's melting, I need to add about 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla. So, if you mess up, don't worry about it, just fix it. So we're going to fix this. Okay, this is a one teaspoon measurer, and I need about 3/4 of a teaspoon. So I'm going to fill it not quite full. There's that. We're going to stir that in. And this pie will be just as good as new. It will be as though it never happened. All right, we fixed that, and I'm going to taste the filling if it don't burn my mouth. Very good. Okay, now on to the meringue. Okay, now for the meringue, I have 4 egg whites. Now, I know I only use 3 egg yolks for the pie filling, but I'm using 1 extra egg white for the meringue because I like my meringue to be just a little bit thicker than what 3 egg whites make. So I'm using 4 egg whites. They're in my mixing bowl here. And for each egg white, I have added 2 tablespoons of sugar. That's already in here. Now I'm going to add some cream of tartar. And I will add a little more than 1/4 of a tablespoon of cream of tartar. And that is our ingredients for our meringue. 1/4 teaspoon. I may have said tablespoon, I meant teaspoon. 1/4 teaspoon. And see, I've just got it heaping. That's what I'm going to put in there. Okay, got that in there. Now, I've got to get my whisk. Let's see, here it is. Okay, this is what you want to beat it with right here. This is my KitchenAid stand mixer that I love. And it will whip these egg whites up, I mean, in just a few minutes. And they'll be ready to go. Now, something I want to tell you is that when you're making meringue or when you're making divinity and you have your egg whites here in your mixing bowl, make sure that your mixing bowl is dry. Make sure that it does not have any water in it because that will hinder your egg whites from whipping up nicely. So you just want to make sure it's dry before you put your egg whites in there. Okay, we're going to turn it on. All right, the cream of tartar stuck to the side. Let me get that unstuck. All right, there we go. Let's try it again. All right, the meringue will hold its shape nicely now, so it's ready. I'm going to have to use my fingers to get this meringue off of this beater here. Wash my hands off. Okay, see, meringue's holding its shape very nicely, so we're ready to put this on the pie. I usually go around the outside of the pie first and make sure that I've got the meringue all the way up to the edges and got it sealed there on the edges. I have problems with my meringue shrinking, and so I'm trying to just overlap it a little bit on the edges and see if that will make any difference. And maybe some of you know what makes my meringue shrink. If you know what the problem is, I'd appreciate hearing from you on how to fix that. I'm just going to kind of overlap it this time, and so if it does shrink, maybe it won't pull away from the crust. I'm just not sure. This is just something I'm going to try this time, see if it'll make any difference. Like I said, some of you may know what the real issue is here, why this meringue wants to shrink on me. Let me see if I can get the rest of this out of here and on my pie, and then we'll be ready to pop this into the oven. I've got my oven preheated to 375 on bake, and we're going to just let this meringue brown. It'll only take 2 or 3 minutes maybe for this meringue to brown. Then this pie will be made. All right, I'm just going to take my spatula and just kind of swirl it around, try to make it look pretty. There we go. Alrighty, that's what it looks like now. I'm going to slide it into the oven, let it brown for just a few minutes. I'll have to keep a close watch on it. Like I said, it'll only take 2 or 3 minutes. All right, I believe the meringue is brown. Here we go. Woo, look at this. Wow. Hang on just a minute. Let me shut my oven door, turn it off, and bring this pie over for y'all to see. Look at this. Isn't that a beautiful pie? So this pie we've got it made. Now what I need to do, first of all, I'm going to set it down right over here. On the counter. All right. Now, I'm going to let it cool on the counter for just a little bit. And then once it's cooled down some, I'm going to slide it into the refrigerator and let it chill thoroughly. And you want to make sure that your pie is thoroughly chilled before you cut it and eat it, because it's going to taste better that way, and it will hold together better that way too. Okay, let's look at this pie up close. There it is. All right, that's a beautiful pie. Okay, folks, I'm so glad y'all came and helped me cook something good today, and I'll be back real soon, and I'll be looking for you.